I've seen aliens drop from the sky.
Yeah.
But I have never seen anything like this.
What if I told you there's a real African Wakanda kingdom?
You get to decide what kind of king you are going to be.
Yes, a real kingdom in which the king did not squander the vibranium found in your soil. Instead, they used their resources to develop their kingdom and uplift their people. Friends, this is the Royal Bafokeng Nation, the people of the deep. Allow me to take you on this journey, a journey through an African tribe that will shatter all the perceptions of Africa that you've heard. This is a story of the richest tribe in Africa. My name is Langdon Tungchama and you're welcome to another episode. There is a popular theory known as the resource curse. This theory simply agrees with the saying, more money, more problems. The resource curse states that communities with more resources experience more devastating consequences. Consequences of mining, or more accurately, consequences of neglect. Now, imagine an African kingdom. What comes to mind? Probably primitive days of wearing lion, king, or leopard. Or more recently, famine, hunger, corruption, and of course, the resource curse. That is not far from the truth. Countries in Africa that produce large volumes of natural resources experience the worst outcomes possible. The DR Congo, Nigeria, Sierra Leone, and Angola all experience brutal civil wars, social inequalities, and high corruption orchestrated by their leaders. But you see, for all theories, there are always exceptions. And in this case, the exception is the Bafokeng Nation. The Royal Bafokeng Nation is a traditionally governed community of over 300,000 people, living in 29 villages that sit on a 1,200 square meter land in the northwest province of South Africa. This community sits on the world's largest platinum deposit, and they own every bit of it. They own financial assets worth over $4 billion. It includes a 13% shareholding in Impala Platinum, majority shareholding in their own platinum mining and refining company, Royal Bafokeng Platinum. They also own shares in financial services, telecoms, property, and transport sector that operates in their villages. Royal Bafokeng Holdings, the community-owned company, is possibly the most successful community-owned investment company in the whole world. Their communities have the most efficient housing system in South Africa. They all have social amenities including stable electricity, access to clean water, and good road network. A child does not have to worry about going out with a jerrycan to fetch water somewhere in their communities. Their housing system are so efficient that part of the negotiation of the miners in Royal Bafokeng Platinum is to own a decent home and pay gradually. Over the last decade, the Royal Bafokeng Nation has spent over $700 million on roads, utilities, schools, clinics, and other public amenities. Their stadium, the Royal Bafokeng Stadium, hosted 6 of the 2010 FIFA World Cup games. The Bafokeng Sports Campus hosted the England football team during the World Cup. The schools provide a world-class education for their students. Here, the students do not only attend school to tick off the roll call as in most government schools. Here, they learn and are sculpted into academic giants. They have scholarship nourishing the dreams of the land's most promising youths and funds that seed entrepreneurial brilliances in businesses, especially among startups. Of course, it wasn't always like this. It started somewhere. It started with their king. Let's go back to the past. Since the 1800s, the white colonialists were everywhere in South Africa, trying to take land and mess with the people's life. It was a rough time. But these guys, the Bafokeng, they were not going to go down without a fight. Their king, Ngosi Motkatle, had a plan, and it was straight up genius plan. His plan was further aided by Paul Kruger, a missionary and politician who owned the farm adjacent to the settlement of the Bafokeng. Paul later became the president of South African Republic. He helped Ngosi Mogatle begin buying back the land of the Bafokeng people. Then Ngosi began motivating his people on the need to pool resources together to buy their land. Now, the Bafokeng people aren't ruling in cash. They were mostly poor people, so here's where it gets insane. Miners in the city, women selling crops, everybody started pulling in whatever they can scrap together to start buying the land back, piece by piece. Cut to the 1920s. Boom! The world's richest deposit of platinum was discovered right under the Bafokeng territory. Now you would think they've hit a jackpot, right? Well, here's where most stories about African communities get sad. Mining companies swoop in, waving big contracts that are basically designed to take advantage of the people who are mostly ignorant, and their leaders are often greedy and ready to take quick profit. But the Bafokeng played it differently. They refused to give their land. Instead, they wanted royalties. Think of it like owning a house and renting it out. They are letting the miners use their land, but they get a percentage of the profit forever. Of course, this was genius. It is the secret to the beginning of the rise of the richest tribe in Africa. Now they are getting an income, but the real power move was yet to come. They created the Royal Bafokeng Holdings. This is the big community investment company. Instead of their leaders choosing to blow those platinum profits on fancy cars or buy boutiques, shops, and invest in more developed countries in Europe or America, like many African leaders have done, they decided to invest the money back into their communities to build roads, schools, and provide basic amenities to improve the living standard of the average citizen. And here's why the Royal Bafokeng story is so huge. They are rich, sure, but it's bigger than that. They prove that traditional ways of life and modern businesses can work together. They control their resources and build up their people and create a kingdom that is envy of the whole continent. And it's not just about money. Bafokeng are a shining example of how preserving culture and investing in people can create a legacy of prosperity that spans generations. Education, cultural preservation, and community health are the core of their wealth management. The Royal Bafokeng Nation is a beacon of what can be achieved when wealth is paired with wisdom and welfare. It teaches us that true wealth is about building a future where everyone thrives together. These guys started out by fighting colonialists who wanted to grab their lands, but they ended up outsmarting even big international companies that had budgets of millions dedicated to outsmarting them. The Bafokeng people shows us what can be done. They show us that tribe does not have to be a curse. It can be a blessing. It can be a tool for mobilizing different people under one tongue with a mission of making everyone's life better. I wish other tribes in Africa can learn from this. What did the Bafokeng people do differently? And why did they succeed? The journey of the Royal Bafokeng Nation demonstrates the power of leadership with a clear vision. Even when he had no idea what resources he deposited in their land, the Ngozi Modgatle chose not to sell the only valuable resources they had, which was their land. By doing this, he gave the generations unborn leverage to compete favorably with the most privileged in the world. Successive generations of leaders had something to build on. They had a vision they could follow, and they followed. Secondly, it was their system of their leadership. Although they have a king, it is easy to think of their system as traditional monarchy where the king dictates and no one questions his decision. Interestingly, that is not the case with the Royal Bafokeng Nation. While the king is the supreme head of the Bafokeng, he cannot make unilateral decisions. He must act within the consensus of the Supreme Council. This is almost the kind of system with the UK. The key element of this is the democratic nature of decision making. Lastly, unity is important. A house divided against itself cannot stand. Similarly, a house united cannot fall. When the king called on his people to contribute their meager resources, they contributed. Their willingness to put resources for land purchases and their system of consensus-driven leadership was essential to their success. And so, their greatness was sealed when they decided to join their heads together. My challenge to my African brothers and sisters listening to this is simple. Rather than give the world stories of tribal wars, let us give the world stories of tribal greatness. Rather than give the world headlines of tribal bloodshed, let us give the world headlines of visionary tribal leadership. If the Bafokeng can do it, any tribe can do it. Use your tribe as a tool to harness your resources for the good of everyone. Changing the whole continent at once may be too big, but you can start from your roots. So, till I see you again, don't forget to share, subscribe, and give this video a like. Thank you.